I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to the 45th and final episode of 2023 for Playing from the Tips, Golf Australia Magazine's preview and tipping show where you get all the information and who might win around the world of professional golf. This week with a slight difference. I am once again your host, Jimmy Emanuel, attempting to corral the so-called experts each week. However, for this week, we're going to let them loose and they're going to gloat about their tipping performances of 2023, particularly one, and generally wrap the year that was before we head into a brief Christmas intermission and prepare for a big 2024. Those so-called experts, although we do thank the various guests throughout the year that have included Ewan Porter, Mark Hayes, Brendan James, Tony Wiebeck, and a couple others I probably can't remember at this hour of the day. But we are going to go to the regulars that have joined us every week. No one more regular than golf podcasting's pillar, Rod Murray. Pillar, welcome.
Oh, thanks, mate. Very kind of you. With Christmas approaching, you can imagine the cheer that I'm feeling. This is my time of year.
Unfortunately, it's an audio medium that people can't see you in your Christmas shirt.
I got my red Christmas shirt on.
It's a colourful pillar today.
Christmas shirt. Pillar,
it's a colourful pillar. Yeah. It's like a pillar of a bridge wrapped in high fizz.
I think you missed Greenie in that list of guests. Michael Green joined us once. And
Michael Green, he was one of the ones.
Well, I'd forgotten that too because he did research and put us both to shame. Research.
Greenie was actually very good. So
he
might get another chance next year.
But can he match the record of, who you're about to introduce here? Yeah.
Correct. Joining Rod and I, the most surprising thing to happen to golf in 2023, I don't speak of John Rahm joining Liv. I speak of the unstoppable tipping freight train that is Adrian Logue. Oh, nice. Logue, welcome.
Thank you, Jimmy. And I don't know if the listeners really understand this, but I did it on a reduced schedule as well. Train. Like all of these guest speakers, they were subbing for me.
A reduced schedule freight train.
And do the listeners know that you don't get a pick on the weeks that you're not on the podcast? So, that record was achieved from far less episodes.
It's like Tiger
just making sure
14 events a year. Yeah. It's hugely impressive.
When you're at the top of the game, you just play a reduced schedule and you pick and choose.
Shut up.
You pick and choose your events.
Jimmy, you keep going.
Yes.
Don't worry.
You have a better winning record than...
I'll turn his mic down.
Okay. We've had enough. We're going to turn your microphone off. Before we get too far ahead in our reflections, let's look back at last week. And of course, we're going to add 2 more wins and 5 more top 10s to our tally. So those 2 wins were 2 people on Louis Oosthuizen in Mauritius. So that at the end of the year, we're going to sit on 35 wins and 214 top 10s as a collective group. And I once again say, show me another Australian golf tipping podcast that's attached to a magazine with the number. But you can't.
Crickets. Just crickets, Jimmy. Nobody.
Crickets.
Yep,
cricket.
nothing.
No complaints there. So rather good numbers from a ramshackle group there. So 35 wins, 214 top 10s. Logue, are you going to claim your numbers or you're not sure of how big a commitment you were?
It was 16. It's hard to keep count. I just sort of get a gist of it. But I think it's 16. It's 16. I
16.
Wanted to make sure I got past Tiger's record.
That's
Tiger's career record.
Well, he's tipped 80-something on the PGA Tour. He's tipped 15 majors.
Small time. We're talking.
Get out of it.
Those are career numbers, not year numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it 16? Was it 16?
16 for me.
I actually didn't keep track of everyone's individual tips.
Well, look, I wasn't. It's 16. Yeah.
Once Logue became painful, I wasn't going to give him the numbers.
Really is quite. On a serious note, golf tournaments are like the Melbourne Cup, notoriously difficult to honestly have any chance of picking a winner. So, how have you managed to do that? Like, it is really just dumb luck.
Yes,
isn't it? You're trying to kid us all, but it is just dumb luck, isn't it?
Again,
everything's
I don't
coming up low.
Understand, but I did this on a reduced schedule.
Any research?
And it's just,
formula.
I don't like to examine it. When you pull a beautiful big tree out of the ground and to examine its roots, you can destroy the tree.
I just use chainsaws on trees, mate, so be careful. In also, why have you not been approached by one of the golf tipping websites to do a weekly? There's some fabulous. Matt Cooper does a brilliant preview each week, which I freely
Has the PGA Tour been in touch?
But yeah, have you been contacted? Because that is a very impressive year, 16 wins. It really is.
Well, look, I'm open to offers. That you can speak to my manager.
Do you have a favourite tip? Do you look back on one and remember any of them?
Got to be Wyndham Clark at the Wells Fargo.
Yeah,
that kind of started it all.
Before he was Wyndham Clark.
That's right. That'd be up there. Even I remember that one. Brilliant stuff. Congratulations, Logue. Let's never speak of it again.
Yes. As we are in a period of reflection, we're going to look back at the year and some highlights from the year in golf. And Rod,
hang on, did we get the Mauritius? Did we get the winner from Saudi Arabia?
Oh. No.
You didn't want me to say it.
No, we didn't, did we?
I do. I want you to say it a couple of times, actually. Everyone wants you to say it.
That was, of course, Thailand's Denwit Baruboon Sub.
Nice.
I wonder how close.
That was terrible, actually. That was really...
Not like you, Jim.
That was awful.
Yeah, it wasn't like you at all.
Thai names are a mouthful, in fairness. But I'd never heard of this guy. But apparently he's been via the last couple of years.
Baruboon Sub. There we go. Denwit Baruboon Sub.
Okay. Well done.
Any more questions?
No, that's it.
Thank you.
Sorry, you were coming to me.
Well, Rod, then, we're going to come to you and talk about what was your highlight for golf this year.
There were I don't feel like there was a highlight for me that really stood. So I didn't go looking for anything like last night or this morning for, a year in review and that kind of thing. I just sort of tried to go back over my own thoughts. No one stood out, but I thought there was a couple that I really liked. So first of all, Logue's tipping performance, his winning tipping form, that was right up there. Michael Kim and Paddy Harrington on Twitter have been standouts this year. Harrington at it again this morning with some brilliant stuff about...
Again this morning?
Yeah, getting your kids into golf. Oh. A brilliant 2-minute clip about how to go about that, which was really good. The Solheim Cup, finishing in a tie. And as much about the response to that and the tantrum throwing and the toys out of the cot from some people about it being 14 all, and that's just how
that was a highlight for you.
I thought that was a highlight. It was great.
You're a nasty piece of work.
I'm a journo. Okay. It's a great story. Okay. So I enjoyed that.
Yep.
The US Women's Open at Pebble Beach and the British Women's Open at Walton Heath. Two great golf courses. We finally got to see the world's best women players playing them. We've seen the guys, well, not so much Walton Heath. We've seen guys play tournaments there before, but I really enjoyed that.
You're going to pick one of these? Or
no.
Okay.
No.
There can be a general bit of scattergun. It's a conversational.
Not one only thing stood out to me. And then the last one that really kind of stood out to me, and it's probably a bit of recency bias, but was the steam train that was sort of Minwoo and the two Australian tournaments this year, the PGA and the Australian Opens, which I thought they were the best vibe Australian tournaments I can remember for a long time, and I've been around for quite a long time. I thought it was a real turning point. Well, and just the tournaments themselves. I mean, they drag each other along. Yeah, his performance makes the tournaments more important and more enjoyable, and the tournaments get a lasting boost from that. But I really thought the Australian summer tournaments, the two big tournaments this year, were the best feeling vibe I can remember for quite some time in Australian golf, and I think that's a real positive.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with all that. I think that's all right on. I had definitely had Minwoo in Australia on my list of highlights. I think that came back with a lot of pressure and came back and is the biggest response and biggest star we've had kind of for the local crowds as in my entire time, I would say.
And relative,
Cam Smith approached it.
Yeah.
But Minwoo has this different hook with crowds of all age, and having been at both events for 7 days each, everywhere he went, he was a superstar. So that's quite an amazing thing for a guy who hasn't won a major or anything like that.
That's right. It's somewhat unusual. Cam's popular with golfers and Adam Scott's popular with golfers and all that sort of thing. But Minwoo really he relishes it like I haven't seen a player love the attention and the limelight the way he does for a long time, particularly not with the game to back it up. You occasionally see someone who hasn't quite got the game, who's got a lot of the lip in the mouth, but Minwoo's got all of it. And that's really exciting to think about for the next, not just in Australia, but for the next decade or more.
Agreed. Logue, any particular highlights that you had this year?
I think the Ryder Cup for me. Rod managed not to mention that amongst all of the stuff he just mentioned. But I was there. I don't know if that'll ever happen again, but it was quite an experience to be there, and always an amazing event. And I was quite staggered by the scale of the production and the build out that they have there. And Italy was amazing. And the course was good and the result was fantastic. And
it was a surprise in some ways. We were kind of expecting a
excitement.
chaotic Ryder Cup, but they really delivered something special.
Yeah.
Full marks to people in Italy who did that.
Yeah. And in the majors, I think the venues for the women's majors, again, were great, except for the Chevron, which was rubbish. And but the two opens, I think, the women's majors were good. And the men's majors, quite the PGA, I thought was good. I like to see Brooks win for some reason. I'm a smash guy, so there's that for a start. And
Big smash guy.
I'm a big smash guy. And I'd like to see Brooks win. I just think golf is better when there's sort of some dominant players repeating major wins or building a resume of major wins. And Brooks, he might have been done, we thought, but he came back and he showed that he's not.
You wonder what might have happened to Koepka without Liv.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's admitted himself he felt like, it might have been all done.
Yeah, needs a
Might
chip
have
on
been
his
over.
shoulder, doesn't he?
And that move to Liv, that's exactly right. And all the controversy that is so up his alley. And out he comes, nearly wins the Masters.
So
wins the
significant. He
PGA.
really shifted it. I'm not a huge fan of Brooks.
No,
I'm
how could you be?
more a smash guy than a Brooks guy.
Sure.
But the
You're a team player.
Yeah. But
You're happy to contribute your 16 wins and chalk them up to the team. You take no personal
That's
joy out
right.
of
You
any
take
of that.
no personal
You're a team
claims.
guy. Yeah.
No, but
You don't
moving
make it
himself
all about you at all.
moving himself to 5 majors, I thought was really significant.
Very much. And puts him in a pretty small class. Of
No, that's
5
right.
majors is really special.
Especially for the last decade.
Yeah.
Like, it's maybe makes him the most significant player of the last decade, which nobody talks about. But I mean, he kind of is.
He is, of all the guys in that top echelon, he is the best one, I think, personally, to go and watch play golf in person. The skill set and everything and the way he goes about playing golf is so impressive.
When he's on.
Ball flight control and everything like that.
Yeah.
He is so good. So I think that's definitely a highlight because it's just good for golf as well. Kind of broke the narrative a little bit of
lot of
the guys who
first-time
can't
players.
win and everything like that. And I agree with that. And I think Ryder Cup as well was on my list, mainly because it was supposed to be the end of Europe, with losing all the experienced guys and whatever. But it also is the moment we don't know what's going to happen with the Ryder Cup with John Rahm leaving, everything like that. We don't know where it sits still. But it was a real standout moment for just golf, good golf.
Yep.
It was above everything. It was just good golf, which is what it should be. And the back-to-back weeks with the Solheim Cup didn't get as much attention as it should. But like Rod said, it finished in such a good way that it got some attention in the closing stages.
And the payoff for the Solheim Cup will come with the next cup and the one after. And this one goes down as one of those pivotal points that, everybody now talks about, that those things make the Ryder and the Solheim Cups. That 14 holes, I'll still be talking about that in 10 or 15 years, which is kind of what you want. Good for the event.
And on a personal note, I made beef bourguignon this year, like the most successful attempt.
highlight as well?
I've made a beef bourguignon. It's a couple of days of preparation.
And did you call it dinner de beef bourguignon? Is that what you did?
That's what the French would call it. But
They would. I had pretty much all of those things on my list as well. I also noticed no one mentioned a bright new commentary star, but that's okay. You can have your own opinions. But the only other one I had that was it's a bit of a recency bias, but I think it has something building towards something bigger, and that's a Grant Thornton that was a couple of weeks ago.
Good call.
I think that had a lot of people joining in and following in with what Rod, you and I have spoken about a lot, about potentially a mixed President's Cup or something in that form. And I think it gained a lot of that interest and what it should be. And men and women playing together in a competitive environment as a team, I think has a lot of merit. Yep. And I think that really showed something, and it was popular and people watched it, even in this period where people don't tend to watch that much golf. I thought it was a real late year highlight for us to hang on to and hopefully do more with as we move forward.
Yeah, we've dissed a lot of sponsors with our sponsor watches this year, but full marks to Grant Thornton. Not only did they do it, they did it really well. It was really well done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Grant Thornton ambassadors this year, which you'd expect for the first year, but I think you'll find players will be drawn to that in the future. They'll want to take part and enter a team and be a part of it. So I agree with you, Jimmy. I thought that was a really important tournament.
Maybe it can get open status and it can be the Open to Grant Thornton.
Oh, lovely idea. Open to mixed.
Yeah.
well, I'm sure the French are calling it that already.
Yeah, they would be already. They call everything.
Of course they are. They call everything the Open to.
Yeah, they shove it in front of everything.
Of course, where there's highlights, there is lowlights. Is there anyone got anything particularly that stuck in their craw for the year of 2023 golf?
Like smugness about his winning tipping form. That was a low light.
The cherry,
definitely
like
true.
the thing that just put me over the top was Rahm's exit from the PGA Tour, and I just could not care. And it made me think, I just don't care about professional golf as a whole. What are the listeners tuning in for? Like, are they actually interested in this stuff?
I'm putting myself out of work here. Nobody should be taking any notice of any of this. It's a not uncommon sentiment, though, is it, Jimmy? You're reading
just
this
such a
more
mess.
and more.
No. When's it going to sort
blog
itself
posts
out?
And tweets, and I don't know that.
But it was
can.
boring to start with, and it hasn't moved forward at all. It's got a little bit of controversy now, but
It's got nothing to do with golf, though, is it?
it doesn't have anything to do with golf. It hasn't improved the product, in inverted commas. The game's a bit of a mess, and if any, it's just further emphasised the importance of the majors. PGA Tour is just like so reactionary, and they're trying so many different things. But when in the end, when you turn the TV on, at the end of the day, it's just so boring. And like maybe the last 9 holes are still watchable, but
You're in the Roger Mitchell camp. The majors should just broadcast the last 4 holes, and you should be able to just buy that.
The majors,
Yep.
All golfy rounds.
No, the majors, the first round, right from day one. Is
No, that's old white man talk. Last 4 holes, mate. That's it. That's the only reason he's interested in. You broadcast it on Twitter, and that's Snapchat and TikTok.
Yeah, I go for the last 4 holes of the of PGA Tour. That'd be fine.
Would you watch it?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that would be watchable. Put it that way.
I'm not sure. I don't think it makes it any more interesting. It'd be like just watching the last 5 seconds of a basketball game.
Yeah, I don't know. You can see that there's something at stake. Finally, it's. I'll give it some benefit of the doubt. That's the only point that's possibly watchable, but the and Live is just a mess. If they could just, I don't mind the 3 rounds idea. Who was it? It was coming out. Taylor Gooch talking about that tennis tours have 3 rounds, 3 sets for most of the year, and then 5 sets for the majors. I think there's some merit to that.
Nobody cares about that. Either way.
No, nobody comments on that at all,
But nobody cares about it being 54 holes or 72. Some of the players have, and they're talking about going to 72 because that's what Rahm wants.
Well,
and they just paid $500 million for him.
Care about 54 holes, but
no, they just mathematically adjust.
Thursday.
If you've got 54 and 72 hole tournaments, then you have to make an adjustment. If everything went 54 holes,
but they don't.
Matter. Yes, they do, don't they? I thought they made
the
an
World Golf
adjustment.
rankings don't. They don't. No, this is one of the requirements. It's got to be 4 rounds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's got to be 4 rounds.
Does it? Yeah. I didn't know that. There you go. Okay.
I mean, there's exceptions. They make the occasional exception, but not for a whole tour.
Okay.
But the so the 3 rounds I think actually should be embraced. But for goodness sake, you've got to have a seeded draw on the last day because you can't have winners finishing all over the course or like usually they can finish on the first or the second or something, which is just utter nonsense. But also that by that time,
did they change that?
Nobody's interested in the tail end of the. No, they didn't change that.
I thought they changed that.
No.
They seed the draw, but it's a seeded shotgun start.
Right.
Yeah. That's right. No, they've got to go out.
If you've got to
abandon the shotgun start for the last day,
you can still have the winner come out of the group that teed off on 3.
And I get the shotgun start on days 1 and 2. I think that's fine. It fits it into a TV window, and you get all of the shots. But by the time you've got day 3, there's a bunch of players you're just not interested in seeing who are way down the field. So you can still fit everybody who's worth seeing in the TV window. Yep. So just do it that way.
I'd almost guarantee that they'd be thinking about that because that'll have become obvious to them. What we've actually got now with Liv on there in the plus column is they've now had kind of 2 years. All of this stuff has become obvious, and now they can start working on the solutions towards it. So they might. But I agree with you. 54 holes doesn't matter. It's just the one time I turned it on and watched it. I'm not a Liv fan. I've been pretty open about that. Looking for all the innovation and the incredible difference and what was going to attract people to it, and I saw blokes playing golf that I'd been watching playing golf for years. It was exactly the same. There's really no difference.
If it was the best players the other concept is if it was the best players every week playing just like Formula One and a reduced season.
I don't know.
You don't know about that?
I don't know. I'm not convinced about that.
A reduced season with all of the best players guaranteed to be there every week. I'm not trying to support Liv because they don't have the best players.
No, I know that.
Some of the best players.
Which was the idea of it to start with. But I wonder whether, so I come from the things that appeal to me about golf, I don't follow any other sports, are some of the things that Liv's the kind of the anti. One of them is what you're sort of talking about there. I don't know that is necessarily what we want. Part of the appeal of golf has always been
the long shot or something.
Partly the long shots and partly that you don't get to see the best players. We talk constantly about the season being too long and there's too much golf and we never get a chance to miss them. It's the same is true of great players. You don't want to see them all the time necessarily because then you've just got a sameness.
I think it's actually what I just said with Koepka. Like, I do kind of want to see the best players.
But you won't turn on Live to watch him.
Build a career record. No. What I'm saying is, I like to see the dominant players winning all the time, and I think most people do, to be honest. Like, you like to see the dominant player win. It's why it's an upset when the dominant player doesn't win.
This idea that you get your best players as these limited field things. I mean, that was the World Golf Championship concept. Was bring the top ranked players together to play a couple of events.
It needs to be in a reduced season, like Live, where it's all they play. I think that's actually useful. And, it's not all they play for most of them at the moment. They go around trying to get world ranking points from other tours, but wherever they can. But if it was a reduced season, which was legitimised and also compact, so, the 12 to 14 events in a compact season somewhere around the US summer.
But one of the big Live problems...
And the shoulder seasons for Australia and other countries.
One of the big Live issues is, and this is I think what Jimmy's kind of referring to, and the World Golf Championships had the same issue in many ways. It was never really taken seriously. It wasn't in the PGA Tour's interest to make the World Golf Championships worthwhile because that would be a competing product.
But they weren't what I'm talking about. They were...
But they lack competitive integrity. No cut. This is one of Liv's biggest problems. There's not competitive integrity. Everyone's being paid before they tee up. And I do think that's an issue in golf more than other sports.
I agree. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, it doesn't mean much.
And that really does impact. We're watching the Q School. It's just been delayed till Monday. All those poor guys have got to sit in their hotel rooms watching the rain splash on the windows and worry what they're going to be doing next year.
Yeah, that's real golf.
That's horrible for them, but that is genuine entertainment and genuine competitive integrity.
That's been some of the highlight stuff of late. I mean, Champions Tour Q School, PGA Tour Champions, where 4 Australians got their cards.
LET
You'll
Q
get
School
more people engaged with that. LET Q School on PGA Tour Q School, where they're finally giving cards back again through there. It's got its issues. Greg Chalmers pointed out a few of the issues of it recently, but it has genuine interest. And then I think the other thing is that was juxtaposed around the time of Rahm's announcement was we were playing the big events in Australia here, or they just finished. We were at Cathedral, I think, by that point, where people had genuine interest from overseas about, I've heard about these Australian events. I want to see these Minwoo Lees and stuff. Minwoo Lee made his name playing Australian events. And people care about these events that are bigger on these tours. And then we're just in the background of one of the best events of the year in terms of the Sandbelt Invitational, where it's all about the golf course. Yeah. And I was down there, and you constant people saying, I want to be able to watch it, and I want to see the golf courses and see these guys. There wasn't necessarily anyone beyond Jeff who has that broad appeal of top player in the world. So I think that model of trying to just best players and let's do it, it's got some merit.
None of everything you just said goes away. None of that goes away at all. In fact, all of that can be elevated if there's a reduced schedule for the top players, which is in a more compact season. The rest of the year can be all of that stuff, and it gets more airtime. But where does that go? So who's getting rid of that? If you've got like
you said
he's gotten fired.
You said the only place that the players they're going to play is this reduced schedule, right?
The very top players, and then they'll play the occasional thing where they'll visit other stuff.
Yeah, but
in what world are they going to play other stuff?
In this world, they literally do that now.
The only people doing that are the Live players who are looking for world ranking points, i.e. West Hayes in the last 2 weeks. Who else?
But you can't have everything. Let's go through the stuff you just mentioned. You're not going to have any of these players turn up to Q School. Like the Q School just stands on its own 2 feet. But something like the Invitational, they will turn up for that. Rory plays at the Seminole thing, and
Rory's going to come to the Sandbelt Invitational.
Yeah, maybe
that's what you're suggesting.
That's possible.
Does Clates know that yet? He's the tournament director. I hope he's across it because that's going to require some changes.
He plays at the Seminole thing. He plays at the Queenswood thing.
He played at the tailor-made Seminole event with the other tailor-made players.
It's exactly the sort of thing he would turn up to.
Oh, Logue. You do know Santa's not real, don't you?
I'm not.
You do know that, don't you?
I'm being for real.
I know you are. This is why I'm asking genuinely if you know Santa's not real. No, I don't kid you.
And those events around the world are so important, where best players are there to bring attention that then gets thrown onto other younger players who are in the field, but also the learning they get out of playing practice round with someone, and getting through that, you don't have the development of the next wave if they never get a chance to see and play with the best players.
And so just to be clear,
That is,
I love your idea, Log. I love it if that's the way the world worked.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
My idea wasn't to take good players away from these events.
No. But you're suggesting that you've gone one step further and suggested that good players are now going to play events that they'd never considered because they're playing a reduced schedule of guaranteed. No,
What are you
that's not going to happen.
Rory and a lot of those top players literally play in exactly that sort of event. That's exactly the sort of thing they do go and play in.
No, not convinced. Don't think that's true. Jimmy, are
it's
you
a
with me or
fact.
with Logue?
Have you seen the list?
Logue on paper is a winner this year. Who are you backing?
Have you seen the Seminole Invitational thing? And the
Seminole Member Pro that you're talking about,
Yeah, which is
has
closed
a
to the
lot
public,
of different
untelevised.
layers to it that aren't necessarily just I'm going to go play
Where
Seminole.
Rory's playing with a billionaire who might be worth some sponsorship money. He ain't coming to the
And in
Sandbelt
5 years'
Invitational.
time, the Sandbelt Invitational might be that. It's already something that's developing all those
I would
layers.
love it to be that. I would love it to be that. Let's move on. This is bogged down in nonsense.
Let's move on. That is going to be part of the ongoing mess that is professional golf
Yeah, absolutely.
next year.
That's probably the broader point, isn't it?
We,
That professional men's golf
we-
is imploding at the top level. Imploding
yeah,
right
well,
before our
we
eyes.
supposedly will have a decision and stuff by December 31. If anyone believes that, they are going to have a good Christmas because they believe there's bells ringing and presents coming down the chimney. But I think that's part of the thing is we're going to have this ongoing discussion and sort of breaking in professional golf. John Rahm clearly sees his chance to get some money and hopes that then he'll not have to be changed that much, but it is going to be changed. I mean, it's going to be very disjointed for a period as of yet.
I can't wade through it all, Jimmy. Can you give me the ball? Because you have to. It's your job, not my day-to-day job anymore, that sort of stuff. I can't wade through it all and figure out where Liv sits with this deal that they're talking about trying to do with the public investment fund and other private investors. What does that look like? Liv, as far as I can tell, are not changing their rules, the rules they accuse the PGA Tour of having, where if you're a Liv player, you play all 14 events, no questions asked. How does that line up with whatever the public investment fund's going to put into the PGA Tour? Do the public investment not really care about Liv? That's just one product over there, and they're going to invest in the PGA Tour over here separately? I don't understand it.
Yeah, exactly. The detail of it is there's a lot of detail in the minutiae, I suppose. But there's going to be now the concept is that there's going to be investment from two different sources, being the PIF and this, private equity group that's going to be created to spend money on the new for-profit PGA Tour arm. But exactly what happens with the players and with the different schedules and the different tours, for lack of a better word, is not clear. Whether they come together and that means that Liv players are allowed to go and play other events would make sense, but they're going to still be committed to their contract of playing the full Liv schedule. So exactly how it's going to work, I don't think is finalised and worked out as of yet. I think the hope is that there's the Liv schedule and then there's a chance to play a few other events throughout the year and play the majors, and that's about it. But exactly how it's going to work is unclear, and that's probably why the investment and the agreement hasn't been finalised from the players' side of things, because if you're a PGA Tour player who's at the top of their game and you want the investment deal to be done and then you want a spot on Liv, well, it's not clear that you can easily get one unless you sign a contract and go over there. So I'm not exactly sure. I think once they would all come together financially, then they would sit in a room and actually knock out the ideas, but that's got to go through player council on the PGA Tour. It's also got to go through the approval of the big players on Liv, who the overwhelming response I've heard from players and caddies and stuff out there is they're very happy with what they've got.
At Liv, yeah.
But they don't really want to go and play more. They don't want to go back and play, 72-hole PGA Tour events. So that's going to be something that's going to be exceptionally difficult for whoever's charged with trying to bring everything back together.
One can't imagine Norman and Monahan smoking the peace pipe. I just can't see it. There is too much animosity. One or both of them will have to go if there's going to be some kind of negotiated peace between Liv and the PGA Tour. But I'm intrigued by this notion that Yasser, His Excellency, might just be playing both sides of the fence, funding Liv, putting money into the PGA Tour through the PIF, when the two of them are essentially at war. It's an extraordinary set of circumstances.
The really obvious reading as well, though, is just that until there's any sort of deal in place, you've got no choice but to operate as business as usual, which means just keep getting players and like stage tournaments. Yeah. Like that's how any business, take all of the politics out of it. Like it's until there's a contract signed or a deal done, you've got to assume you're going to run that tournament in whenever they start.
One thing it has achieved in the big picture, which was the goal from the outset for the PIF and for Saudi Arabia and for Yasser, was they've now got a seat at the PGA Tour table. They've spent a lot of money to get there and pull it, and almost nobody anymore is talking about the source of the money.
No.
It's moved beyond that step. They've achieved that. It's just, okay, we've all accepted that there's going to be Saudi money in the game in a large way, and the rest of it's kind of been forgotten.
Yeah, hopefully it can be about the golf going forward because, boy, it needs it.
Either way, I think it's damaged it. People often make comparisons to World Series cricket and Super League. Do you see those comparisons, Jimmy? I think professional golf has taken a hit.
Well, World Series cricket was huge for cricket, hugely beneficial for cricket.
Totally different set of circumstances, of course, but the players were not being paid there. That was different.
There's some likeness in all those sort of things, but it's not quite the same. That's taking sports that were barely professional and injecting huge money and also coming up with ways that were exceptionally innovative in terms of playing the game, in terms of World Series cricket with one-day cricket and everything like that, colour clothing and all that sort of stuff that really changed the essence of what the game was. They haven't done that with a 54-hole shotgun start, like you mentioned earlier. So
they wear shorts, Jimmy. Come on, they wear shorts.
They wear shorts, that's correct. But there's the other element being that this is not taking guys who were not making much money and giving them a decent thing. This is taking guys who are making a lot of money and making them even richer.
Who are already overpaid and giving them a bigger sense of entitlement and passing it down the chain to the rest of the players who have now also got a greater sense of entitlement. Extraordinary stuff.
Yeah. We now sit at a stage where the money in professional golf is to a higher level than we ever thought it would be as a natural progression, and now it's how the game manages and survives and continues to have that kind of money or even close to that kind of money.
Question two becomes,
going to be the interesting part.
Is it sustainable? That's exactly right. We've already seen Wells Fargo have packed up their tent and moved on.
Yeah.
And
Honda as well.
And they've been a very serious and invested sponsor in golf for the best part of 15 or 20 years.
I felt the writing was on the wall for that. The moment FedEx signed up an extra $70 million or something a few years ago, I thought to myself, how many companies are there that can do that? And that's sort of the thin edge that the PGA Tour is on at the moment with its current means of getting money.
Has FedEx worked for? Do you think that's worked for FedEx? I mean, the problem with golf for a sponsor is always, and particularly at this end of town where they've now made it so horrendously expensive, you've limited the number of companies who can afford it, and they get 1 week. 1 week.
Yeah.
It's not like sponsoring a football team or a cricket team. You get 1 week, and that's kind of it.
FedEx get the series.
Well, for all the criticisms we've made internally, has it worked for them in a branding sense that FedEx is now...
Whether it has or not, though, it puts the tour on a knife edge when you're reliant on that sort of money.
Oh, absolutely. One huge customer.
Yeah.
You'd have to think part of this thinking with this bringing in investors and the whole thing that Liv's kind of kicked off is partly that is, look, we've had a look and really, like my studio, if you've got one big customer and they leave and that makes a really big impact on your business, you're not in a very healthy position. So,
exactly.
Yeah, really interesting times. Nothing to do with golf, but really interesting times.
No, exactly. That is pretty much where we're going to end it for 2023 for Playing from the Tips. Bit of spirited discussion. Well done us.
Well done us.
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
One more low light, and I do think this is important because it's at the other end of the game, the more important end of the game, and that's been the controversies with Moore Park and Oakley and broadly the public golf thing being under threat. That's something that golf, like the Live and PGA Tour, that's going to have to... that fight is never going to stop. We're going to have to fight that for the rest of our lives if we want golf to remain. And it's become crystal clear in the last 12 months that that's the case. Sorry, Jimmy, you were going to wrap up.
No worries. We would love to hear your thoughts on this show and what you'd like to hear more of, and any other feedback which you can provide via golf@golfaustralia.com.au. Send an email and tell Brendan James you love all three of our work so that he just keeps on pushing ahead with Playing from the Tips. And you can keep up to date with all the movements in the world of golf, which very rarely settle over the Christmas New Year period, on the Golf Australia magazine website, golfaustralia.com.au. You can also get the perfect Christmas gift right now in the form of the January issue of Golf Australia magazine, which contains the top 100 courses for 2024, another area where Logue has his influence. Includes a checklist for places you've played, and the current issue coming out with a calendar for 2024. Rod, it's been an absolute pleasure on Playing from the Tips in 2023. Thank you for your time.
It really has. Thank you for having me. I've been enjoying it.
Logue, you've been nothing but a box of surprises, but it's also been good fun. Thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure.
A movie reference from me, the Forrest Gump of Playing from the Tips, eh?
Oh, yeah.
We've got very limited
The box of chocolates.
references for you to draw from there, but yeah, okay.
That's not bad, though.
It's one
That's
of
pretty good
one
for
of
me.
half a dozen movies you might have seen.
It's better than like him calling you Rain Man.
Or Costanza, which is often the temptation.
Okay.
A weird little
Yeah.
man with not much hair.
That will do us for episode 45 of Playing from the Tips. We'll see you in 2024. Have a happy holidays.